Sight fishing is by far my favorite. I would take one sight fish over 5 blind casted fish any day. Just the nerves that go through you, and just being able to see him and watch him eat it is, for me, what it's all about. Some of the clips I have in today's video, you can see the backs of the redfish coming out of the water. So today we'll talk about my setup, what I prefer. This is all personal preference, y'all. If you already have a belief about something, stick with it, man. But these are going to be my beliefs, and these are the things that works pretty good for me, like at least 90% of the time. So we'll go over my setup and what I like to use and what works best for me. And we'll start off with the rod and reel. My rod is a Falcon Clear Water Rod. It's 7 foot, medium light. You need the medium light because you need a real flexible tip. You need that tip to really slingshot the lure out there. They're real flexible. Makes it look like you got a big fish on too. So it's 7 foot. If you can get a 7.5, you can get a little bit more distance. It's all about distance and being able to cast the lures I'm going to show you. Very, very light lures. When you're fishing real shallow and the fish is barely covered with water, so about 4 inches of water, they can be skittish, they can be spooky, and you're going to make a lot of casts to get a few good hookups. Sometimes it's even better. Sometimes they just will not spook no matter how bad you mess up, but most of the time you want to try to cast it a little bit past them and bring it into them. So you have to determine which way he's facing based on his back, and look for his tail. And so you put it on the side with his head, obviously, and just bump it real slow off the bottom when you're fishing real shallow like this. A little bit different if you're fishing a couple feet of water. You wanna pop it pretty hard, but when you're fishing real shallow and you have a lot of grass, submerged grass, you want to kind of slow it down just a little bit, and don't pop it so hard because you're only in this much of water. So if you pop it too hard, the lure will come out of the water. So you want that lure to be able to sink back down. Every time you barely raise it, it needs to sink back down. It needs to fall through the grass if it can. There's little pockets, sand or mud pockets, that it will fall down into where the fish sit. You know, pretty often they sit in those little pockets. And then the reel that I use, this is a Lew's custom speed spool, and this one is a 1000. And then I just ordered another Lew's custom speed spool that is a 100, and they are very, very similar in size, but they're pretty dang small. They don't hold a lot of line. So the line you use is something like 10-pound Power Pro braid. I have tried the Super Slick 8 braid, and I swear I don't get as much distance. That's just me personally. I know a lot of people believe in it. I switched to the Slick 8, and it felt like as I'm casting it that line is so smooth that it just doesn't peel off of the reel on a spinning cast as smooth as the original Power Pro. The original Power Pro has a little bit of a coating on it, and that coating, it just unravels easier when you're fishing with really light lures. So we're talking about real light setup, y'all. We're not talking about any other way. So if you fish other ways and other scenarios and other lures, everything changes. So this is the super light setup. So that's the 1000 on the left and the 100 on the right. Very similar in size, and depending on brands, the actual size of the reel might vary just a little bit. You know, maybe a Daiwa is just a little smaller, or a little bigger. The hook that you're going to use is a weedless swim bait hook, and this is a 1/0. They have a little corkscrew. Some of them come with like a peg, and that peg you just poke it through instead of screwing it on. And it is a 1/16 ounce, really light. And for the last several months, a big fan when I'm sight fishing of Gulp. The Swimming Mullet 4-inch They measure like 2.5. They are a super small lure, and that's what you need in order to not spook them. You know, even on a real good bite day. Today was a pretty good bite. I had quite a few spook from it. You know, the lure will be in the air and it won't even be at the fish yet, and he takes off. You know, so the smaller and lighter when you're fishing in shallow, the better. I get asked all the time, what colors, and if you're sight fishing and you're putting it in front of their face, and if it has a scent like gulp or any other scent that you want to add to a lure, or a lure that comes with it already, to me, color don't matter. I switch colors every day. If I had to pick just one color, it would be probably the root beer gold chartreuse for the marsh, because the water is stained. I like the chartreuse tails. I think they stand out in dirty water. And if I was going to fish a little bit more clear water, I would pick a pearl white. And this one has a chartreuse tail. You don't really need it for clear water. Pink, I like the pink one. These are some new black and chartreuse that I got. And I switch colors all the time. And I think if you get it in front of their face and you present it well, then they will hit it. You know, it's all about the bite. I still have some customers that book trips with me that are still unsure of how to rig a weedless. So I'll show y'all how I rig it. This is the Gulp Swimming Mullet. Little bitty. So this is what they call a 4-inch. I'm going to show you an actual 4-inch. We'll take the down south burner. That's 3-inch. Never mind. The Saltwater Assassin, which is 4 inches, which it says right there in the package. This is a good lure too. They're not scented, so when I used to use these, I would put the Procure on it as often as I could. And this is a 4-inch Saltwater Assassin, and then this is your Gulp. You see how much smaller it is? Sure, I guess they mean 4 inches is if you stretch the tail out, but the body of the lure is what your hook is going to go into, and this is a little bitty body compared to that body. So it takes the 1/0 really small hook in order to fit the Gulp, and it's still a little bit big for it, but it does work good. So I'll show you how to rig them real quick. So you just get the corkscrew and you poke it through the nose there, and you just screw it on. No big deal, right? This is not the important part. We'll get to that. Screw it on, and I leave it. You see how the little silver part of the corkscrew, it's not all the way tucked in tight to that lure. I leave it out about like that because it's such a small lure. That's where the hook wants to go in, right there at its tail. So we have to put the hook in through the tail. You mark where you want the hook to go through in order for the hook to be level. So like I said, it's right there by the tail. That's where you mark it. You put your finger there. Then you have to bend the lure in order to get that hook where you marked it. So you bend the lure, and when you come out, you want to come out straight up through the lure. So you have to push it like that and bring that hook all the way out like that, so it's all the way out. And then now you take the body of the lure, you push it forwards a little bit, and then you push that hook just barely in the top of the skin of the lure, and that will make it as weedless as possible. But fishing the stuff that I fish, you're gonna catch grass. You have to make your cast count. If you see one, you ease up towards it, get close to where you seen him, and sit there and look and wait. If it's real shallow, like 4 or 5 inches, which is the best scenario, he will show himself if they're moving around. what they do is they kind of crawl through there. They go on top of the grass, so you see their back, and then they go down in a little bitty pocket that's maybe 2 inches deeper, 3 inches deeper than the grass. So you won't see them when they're in the pocket unless it's a sunny day. You can actually look down in the water and see the fish if the sun is out. If there's cloud cover, it's pretty dang hard to see in the water. So if you're wanting to look down in the water and look for them like that, it does help to have polarized glasses. These I've been wearing for a couple months. My buddy Tom gave them to me. He won them at a tournament. They are red tail optics, and they're polarized. And if you want to see the fish down in the water, it has to be preferably 9 a.m. or later, with the sun kind of high, in order to see down in the water. And these do help, but for a few years I've learned to sight fish just based off of seeing water movements and their tail and their back that comes out and their wakes. So you don't really need expensive glasses unless you just want to see down in the water. And when you're looking down in the water, you have to be pretty close to the fish. So a lot of times they spook, a lot of times they don't. So what kind of areas do you go into in order to sight fish? Any kind of back lake situation you can find. Back lakes in the marsh, back lakes that are in the bays that islands make. Some islands make little back lakes. Any kind of back lake that has grass, submerged grass. Most of them do. Some of the marsh back lakes have grass, but only in certain sections of the lake. So look for that grass, and then, you know, just sit there and scan it for a while and see what you see, and ease up as quietly as you can, and sit there and wait. It's a very patient way of fishing. For me anyways, it took me a while. I wouldn't see nothing for 12 seconds, and I kept moving, and then I'd run over the redfish because I didn't wait. Just a couple, usually it's just a couple minutes, as long as they're moving. You know, the times whenever they're sitting still and they're not really moving, that's when your real sight fishing comes into play. With the sun up, looking down in the water, you'll find them just sitting there. So that's on a real tough day when they're not moving. I have been catching some like that by seeing them down in the water, and it's kind of a new thing for me. My sight fishing has always been a little different than actually seeing them. So the 10-pound braid is the most important factor in this in order to cast these lures. They don't go very far. I'll probably get 75, 90 feet if I'm lucky off of these real light lures, but sometimes that's all you need, man, other than being really stealthy and getting a little closer to that fish. So you're gonna have some spook, and you're gonna have some that act like you're not even there, and you'll get some. So that's the complete setup. Let's go get those lines tight. Oh, look at that, man. One with his back out of the water in that little bitty lake. That little lake is where I learned how to sight fish. There's a way in there, but man, the freaking oysters are freaking bad on a low tide. Gotta switch to a weedless soft plastic. the Gulp 4-inch root beer gold chartreuse. Let's go in here and get them. There's at least one in here I seen. Oh, look at that, man. I got him that time. He's slot too. He's a slot. We're gonna let him go though. Oh, there he is. Right up against the grass. What? Dude, there's freaking 4 or 5 of them. Finally ate it, huh? He's 20 and a half. He's going to the left. Plus, I haven't retied. I've caught quite a few fish without retying, and that makes oh, it's a freaking nice flounder. Yeah, see him? Oh, come on, dude. He's still right there. Oh man, come on, man. They keep short striking it. He didn't bite it, I spooked him. I put it too close to him. There he is. Finally got him to eat it instead of just strike at it. You messing with me, huh? You give me a hard time or what? I think they got personality. God.